Hello, everyone, and welcome to Schmidtless. I am your host, Kurt Schmidt, president and partner at Foundry, and I am so excited for today's show because we have got an amazing guest. And when I say amazing, we've got a lot to talk about. It's going to be a really interesting and fantastic show. So if you've got questions or comments or want to chime in on the conversation, the comment section is open. So make sure you're in there checking it out. Join in. Mix it up with us. We'd be happy to have you. So I want to introduce Kate. Kate, how are you today?
Doing great. It's great to be with you, Kurt.
Oh, good. I'm so glad you're here. So Kate, you are at iPondr. Tell me about what iPondr does. Why did you start the company? What are its goals? Who does it work with?
Sure. iPondr is a company that I founded in late 2019 and really built in 2020. And launched in 2021, and we are moving into the marketplace in 2022. What do? We use human stories to help folks understand life outside their bubble, the ability to see things a different way, and therefore solve and or participate in the solution for some of our people and culture challenges that we see in society and in the workplace today.
That's fantastic. And so tell me about how the idea came together. Were you, watching the news and thinking this is terrible, or were you working with organizations and seeing the gap there? How did the idea really spark for you with iPondr?
Well, I have been watching the news and thinking it's terrible for a really, really long time. I actually worked in news. My background is that I'm a journalist by training, and I took that degree and did the really obvious thing. I went straight into the United States Peace Corps, lived overseas for a number of years, and that really formed sort of my toolkit of interests and my mindset, my global mindset, and always been passionate about what do folks need to know to conduct themselves well in their lives. And one of the things that I've seen in the last number of years is this, the algorithmic anger, anxiety, and outrage that keeps us sort of always attuned, but maybe not for any positive or beneficial reason in our own lives. And that frustrated me. And I think a lot of people who end up starting businesses are unhappy about something, feel or see a gap they believe they can fill, and then before they know it, they're in doing it.
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, and so tell me about the businesses and how this content works specifically for a business. Say I'm watching the show and I'm interested to know more. How do you work with these businesses in order to bring this sort of content to help them with their employee engagement?
Absolutely. So, we have a problem in our society. We have a situation where people feel like the workplace is actually hurting them. Over this last number of years, that's become exacerbated. We have the great resignation. We have the silent resignation, which is where companies are starting to pay a little more and throw a few more perks your way. And still employees are saying, you're not really understanding what the this is about for me. And what we've learned through science and evidence and research is that people want to be in a workplace where they feel that they belong, where they feel that their contributions actually they matter, where they feel cared about. And so what used to be considered a soft skill, a nice to have, not a need to have, which is empathy or the ability to take another person's perspective, it is now thought of by research as the most important leadership skill. We help teams, employees, employers in the workforce development space, in higher ed, in corporate America to develop empathy, which is not a trait. We think, oh, empathy is a trait, you either have it or you don't. It's sort of part of character. It's actually a skill, and it's a skill that you can learn. And the way that we learn empathy is through human-centered stories of people who aren't like us. So our expert journalists, and we're unique in this space because we are at the heart a journalism and storytelling organization. So our expert journalists, who are majority non-white, dispersed across the United States of America, in the spaces and places where our biggest societal issues are playing out in lives. And we tell those stories in small bite media. We bring them together and we wrap those 5 minutes of audio, 3 minutes of video, an article you can read in 5 minutes, photography. We wrap that gorgeous multimedia sort of learning content with expert curriculum around self and other, and what do you know about this topic, be it caregiving, be it addiction, be it LGBTQ issue, be it race, which of course is playing out daily in American business environments. So we bring that to business as a subscription learning service. E-learning, it's as easy as that. We're a digital platform, scalable to the whole world. And you're able to experience this very immersive and engaging, learn from what it's really like to be a person who uses a chair to get to work, a person who is taking care of kids and parents while working, person who is dealing with maybe being older in their workplace, or being rural and understanding the larger world. We look at it in a very broad way.
I think that's great. Do you feel that it's not just about retention either with these employees? I mean, people, when they're out looking for jobs, they're looking for people that are speaking and providing this sort of approach to the world, right? So it's not just about the current employees you have. It's about how you're growing as an organization too, right?
Absolutely. What happens today, what plays out today is employees are quitting not their company, but their manager. And so the importance of management, leadership, having the capacity for taking perspective, having another person's point of view, really is this muscle that builds and allows you to innovate. Greater innovation comes when you are able to take perspective of others and know that there are other ways of knowing. And when you bring all those ways of knowing together, you create a better result for your business and for your human relationships as well. And the employee has a different experience. Feels like they don't, have to iron their hair. They can bring the food that they grew up with, and or just come to work as they are, with all of their capabilities, but perhaps also their mental health difference, with all of their capabilities, but also their experience of being an immigrant, and so on. And so employees want to be in that environment. And if you are part of the majority, let's say, especially if you're a younger employee, you want to feel like you're a part of the culture of today. Right. Whether or not the content of your work is preparing food for patients in a hospital or serving customers at a bank. You want to feel like you're part of something bigger. And employers who recognize that really embrace this idea of, let's learn together about what it's like to be not me, but somebody else, and how to relate back to that and create an environment where we can all thrive.
Well, and I think it comes down to leadership, right? Because, a lot of, businesses have a problem with that empathy coming from leadership. Like it's not a groundswell thing that I've seen work in organizations. It's got to start from the top down, because if the top isn't leading the way in terms of how we approach, our employee engagement, or even the impact that we have in the world, it can't start from the employees and go up, right?
There is definitely truth to that. We see it as a both and. You have to absolutely have
Yeah.
the buy-in of the executives to recognize that not only do their frontline people have to know how to deal with people, they have to know how to deal with people because they're
Yeah.
surrounded by people. And at the end of the day, their effectiveness is in how they work with and through the talents of other people. And increasingly, those other people aren't male, aren't white, don't come from the same, let's play golf and figure it out, lived experience. And so that skill of being able to take perspective, that skill of empathy is what leads to
Hmm.
that environmental psychological safety. It leads to innovation. It leads to me being brave to say, hey, I know I'm the only woman in the room, but because I have 3 children this age, I can tell you X,
Yeah.
Y, Z about this business challenge that we're working on together, and that can go into the mix of decision making. So it definitely is our program iPondr at Work is for the workplace, and it's as much for the employer as it is the potential employee. We're looking at a time of upskilling and workforce development like never before with our federal investments that are coming. And, we can figure out certain schools how to hold a drill, how to, but we're not going to put Indeed and Monster.com out of work until we are able to understand that at the beginning and the middle and the end, we're people and we're interacting and we're making this value exchange, and it has to
Right.
be valuable for both.
Yeah, it does. It can't just be one-sided. It's in the problem is that people don't. The thing that I've seen with this is that people don't equate it to ROI necessarily, right? Is that, but if you are building a more engaged workforce, right? To your point earlier, I've seen stats as high as 75, 80% of employees in today's workforce feel disengaged. And I keep thinking, what a world would it be if it was flipped, if 80% of the employees were actually engaged in their work? What a different world we would live in. It wouldn't even be just about more engagement. It would be a completely different world. People would have a different idea of what work meant. So when an employee is providing this sort of resources, it's not just about a feel-good sort of thing. It's education, right? It's not, these are, like you said, it's soft skills, but I mean, you actually are educating people by exposing them to this type of content, right?
For sure. Our small bite stories that have to do with, a myriad of societal issues today that you can see, anywhere on the dial with people, ranting and raving and very specific and particular points of view at a policy level. We tell the story from what it looks like inside the lived experience
Mm-hmm.
of people. And it's so broad that there's something relatable to everybody. And yet it's not all relatable to everybody because the point is that it's not always all about you, is it? Sometimes it's your customer. Sometimes it's your supply chain. Sometimes it's the person who works 3 cubicles down from you. And
Mm-hmm.
so understanding how to employ curiosity, have a spirit of problem solving and a spirit of inquiry. This small bite learning where we embed basically equity concepts, which is just anything that is not in your own lived experience is a diversity, equity, and inclusion opportunity for you.
Yeah.
Why would you miss that opportunity for growth and enrichment? And at the end of the day, studies and research and science show that if you follow like yoga, get on your mat on day
Yeah.
one, you're not suddenly able to do pretzel. It takes a little wild. But the best way to do it is a lot like we have a conversation about sex with our kids. It's not one 90-minute conversation.
Yeah.
It's 90
Right.
1-minute conversations. Micro learning has been shown to be the very best way, and who
Yeah.
has time. And those quarterly sessions where we crack open a topic and spend 5 hours, they don't work. So we have really innovated into this space with something that is engaging, immersive. The medicine tastes so good, you don't even know you're taking it. But the end result is that you have an environment of psychological safety where you can innovate, where you can have better customer service, better human relationships, better earnings for your company. So you can think of it as either the carrot of opportunity, which would be great if everybody thought about it that way. What if we had that world, Kurt, that you were talking about?
Right.
But you can also think about it as the stick of the looming change. It's actually happening, where people are no longer satisfied to kind of zip themselves up in a suit of inauthenticity and go do the grind for 8 to 10 hours a day. It's not worth it. There has to be another way. And this is another way. And so we're innovating this into a space where we've seen a lot of what isn't effective, and we're really very committed to seeing what is effective so that we can leverage a kinder world for a better business result.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it makes a ton of sense, because again, it's not just about equating, parcels to, supply chain to dollars. Because I think that's what employers have had the biggest problem with this whole great resignation sort of world that we're in, is that they don't understand where it's coming from. People are thinking it's based on, the salary, when a salary is like just this little small part of it, right? Because if you look at the actual numbers in the great resignation piece, I mean, a ton of it is women who have children, and they're deciding to stay home because the benefit of being at work is not great. And to your point, if you've got leadership where there isn't that representation there, or there isn't that sort of education that's happening at that level, it's really hard for them to see the priorities in making those policies that affect that group or those other groups of people. And then they wonder why they're not attracting people to the business when they're putting out job opportunities, and they're like, I don't understand why people aren't signing up. This is such a great opportunity. Well, read your job description. Does it read like, hey, you're going to be here from 9 to 5 and get stuff done? Do you talk about the benefits there? Do you talk about the education that's going to be a part of it? How you're going to grow as a person, not just how you're going to contribute to the business? You really got to take a look at those things. And to your point, if you're not educating yourself as a leader in that organization, you're going to find quickly when you turn around that nobody else is there standing behind you.
And it's interesting, as you say, research shows that, and it's COVID era research, that when an employee feels that there is good perspective taking in the environment, aka empathy. Let's not get caught up with it as being something you're either born with or not. It's a skill. Right. It improves with practice, and like any skill, you can become very good at being an empathetic leader or manager. And when you lead with empathy, your team doesn't quit. Your team stays together. Their sense of purpose is intact, whether or not you're making, again, widgets or serving clients as a bank teller, or whatever it is you're doing. You have a sense of purpose in what it is that you're doing. It's extremely important when you're asking people to give X percentage of their life to this role. They have to have a sense that it's connected to something larger that at least the group cares about, if not the organization or the enterprise. And it's very powerful. When that is present, innovation goes up. People are problem solvers. Right. People are not afraid to take on challenging things. They show up for each other. And whether it's COVID or social strife or whatever the next meteorite of societal challenge, you create a capacity to deal with it. So we can deal with these things one thing at a time, such as work from home and other things like how are we going to deal with work from home? But if we have the skills and traits of problem solving, curiosity, openness to difference that iPondr at Work, our subscription service, and our stories help to teach, this learning develops not only your capability with equity and diversity, equity, inclusion of all types, including faith and gender and mental health states. I mean, these are the things of humanity, right? You're able to, you don't know what's around the corner, but you know that you have a team that is ready for whatever is around the corner, willing to take it on. They feel safe to take it on. They trust you. And so there really is a very kind of fundamental shift that I think business may think it's harder than it is. It really isn't hard. It doesn't have to be hard. And actually, it doesn't have to hurt either. When you're listening to our stories or watching our videos, you're really experiencing a very, pleasant exposure to like, oh, I never knew. How interesting. That's kind of inspiring. I'm probably going to tell my wife about that tonight or share that with your colleagues. So the answer is not as hard as we think it is.
Right. Right. Well, I think, again, it goes back to understanding what your priorities are as a leader in an organization, because if you're not spending time every day trying to improve your leadership skills in some way. And again, back to your point, it doesn't have to be, I'm going to read the next big giant book that came out about, the leadership or this or that. It's this micro sort of bite-sized things that you're doing on a daily basis that can help you really improve and think differently about the problems you're solving. And to your point about growth, is that everything I'm hearing you talk about is that it makes me think of the sales team and the marketing people, because they have to be telling the stories of success in the organization, not just from an employee standpoint, from their product or their service. And if they've got a solid team that understands and trusts, like you're saying, it's way easier to sell to people and be believable that you actually care about what you're selling or what you're marketing when you trust that that product or service is coming from a good place. So it's not even just about the employee engagement. I think it travels all the way through to your end customer as well. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. I absolutely do agree. One of the things that, and I feel brave to say these things because our business is built on evidence, research, approaches that science have approved, but have not yet been deployed in the way that we optimize other parts of our businesses. We have not optimized for culture. Maybe we're getting better at compliance, but we have not optimized for culture. And what we are here to do is to help optimize for culture, recognizing that maybe we've got 10 minutes a week to spend on it. And that's part of the optimization, right? Is that we're all super, super busy. And yet we can, at the same time, spend a few minutes here, a few minutes there, which is exactly how you build these skills, a few minutes at a time, a little bit every day, with thoughtful questions and some engagement tools, and then analytics that go back to leaders and help them to understand, hey, my team is really, up to the minute, and they really understand a topic like Asian American hate. I'm so proud of my team. That's awesome. When it comes to all gender bathrooms, we have some work to do. And okay, so let's at least know where we are and how do we meet our team where they are and move forward from there. It helps to identify the issues that are sticking points within companies. And then for us, as iPondr, the organization, we get to understand a really important thing. And guess what? It's probably a delight that this thing has nothing to do with consumer preferences. It has nothing to do with product sales. It has everything to do with where is our culture on a variety of topics, and how can we as a pro-social company help to shape a better culture so that we can work better together across difference, which is not the same as agreeing. We don't have to agree in order to be able to work across difference. And that experience goes all the way through an organization, absolutely, to the customer. The authenticity of that builds a bond that creates super brand fans, and that's what we're all about, empowering our customers to do and be.
Yeah, because I think again, it's they say you can't create culture and you can't control culture, but as an organization, how you nourish culture is where it takes root, where it feeds. I bring it up all the time about even just visual cues and audio cues, right? If the leadership shows up late for meetings, what does that say to other people? If the leadership leaves early, what does that say to other people? So again, you're leaving how you're feeding that culture, and if you're not doing it intentionally, don't be surprised when it shows up and it's something that you didn't expect, right? So again, that's why I love what you're doing over there, is because you're providing a service that allows people to be very intentional with how they're nourishing the culture that they really want. Because I think, to your point, it's going to be so much more important in the future.
We're really just at the beginning, and I think we need to give a shout out to the sort of the folks who have been diligently for years and decades working to help their peers and partners understand the experience of others. Book clubs and articles to read, and employee resource groups who are constantly, looking for resources to have meaningful conversations, and that person in the room who, because the issue has to do with race, has to stand up and talk about what it's like, or the person in the room who, because the issue is about disability access, has to, come over in their chair and tell everybody, like, they're tired of having to play that role, right. and they're heroic for having played it for so long. So if we can take human stories that are just as compelling, that allow, Fred and Jane to sit back and learn with everybody else these topics, then we're really moving the whole group forward and not taxing those who are already paying a societal tax every day because of it, whatever their difference may be it, right. Faith, gender, ethnicity, urban, rural. I mean, there's already all of those challenges that one navigates when you are not the majority, when you are not the group, that wields most power, and we're asking them to pay an extra tax. So we're kind of taking that resource back and investing it across all employees. And I'll just remind everybody again that iPondr at Work is a subscription education technology e-learning platform. So we foster empathy and we teach equity topics. And actually they're connected. We learn empathy by exposure to these equity topics of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And those things together, they lift and sort of, and I see you're sharing some of our topics. What they do is they lift and empower, folks to be authentic in the workplace and to be curious about others and to have a passion for problem solving and an invitation to try it differently, maybe not get it right, but be open to that difference. And that will be transformative. That will be transformative for our workplaces, for our communities, and ultimately for a better American society. I'd say, we're passionately ambitious for that result.
Yeah, like I said, I think, again, if people look at this as a big mountain to climb, it's not. It's like you said, it's not a one-time sort of workshop and then you're done, right? It's a constant grooming throughout the your experience with that employer. And I think it's really admirable. I'm really excited for the work you're doing. So if I want to know more about the work that you're doing, Kate, and the work over at iPondr and how maybe I can incorporate that into my organization, where do I find out more information?
Lovely question. So iPondr, the name of our company, is IPONDR. So there's no E in there. So that's something to remember. And by the way, naming a company is one of the most interesting things you could talk about. Yeah. But our company is called iPondr. We have products. iPondr.com is our free media site where you can see all our human-centered storytelling across fascinating topic, verticals such as the workplace or sports and society or people and planet, etc. And then our B2B subscription for the workplace is called iPondr.com. And it's accessible. We're really passionate for mid-level companies to participate, for small to medium-sized businesses to participate, because frankly, if Main Street doesn't have access to, seeing life outside that bubble that we all live in, then how are we going to compete, regionally and then nationally and then globally? So we hope that people find iPondr.com subscription service easy to access, easy to afford, and sort of an innovation breakthrough. That is what we're aiming for.
I think it's great. Well, Kate, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to join me, and I look forward to our next conversation.
It's been a lot of fun. Appreciate it.
All right, everyone. I want to take this moment to thank you for taking the time to join me, and to remind all of you out there that are leaders that you have to continue your education. It's not something that you can just set and forget. These skills that Kate had talked about, empathy and building community, these are things that are skills that you can get better at. So take time out of your day, check what you're consuming, check your social media. Once a month, what I do is I go through and I audit all of my social media to make sure I'm following and keeping up to date with the things that are relevant to me today, not things that were relevant to me when I first joined 4 or 5 years ago. I go through, I try to scrub it once a month. I challenge you to do the same. I think it's a great practice. And speaking of great practices, we got more live shows coming up in the next few weeks. So make sure you're subscribed and you hit the like button and follow and all the things and that you do. And we'll see you next time.